Fussing and fighting.
Well, yeah, just all the crappy stuff. But what I got into was the photography and electronics, like running sound equipment.
Let me
stuff.
tell you something. Donald was our photographer and our sound man for years. I don't know how many years. Quite a few.
Oh, Lord, a long time.
I tell you what, Donald is hard to beat when it comes to that stuff. He is an awesome photographer and an awesome sound man. And even now, with computers and stuff, I don't know what I'd do without him.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the flowers.
Yeah, he made us sound good. I mean, you know, the only thing I knew how to do was pack the stuff in and set the microphones up on the stands and stuff. But Donald was the one that sat back there and run the sound for a long time.
Okay, here's the next question. Have you or any of your family members served in the military? Well, we know Dad, he served in the Air Force.
My dad was in the Air Force in Korea and Vietnam. I have a cousin who's still living, actually. He's like a third cousin.
Yeah.
He was in World War II in the Navy.
Oh, that's right. He was on a submarine.
Yeah, submarine.
They trained. What was funny about him is, they trained him on a submarine, had him stationed on the submarine. The day he showed up, they were getting ready to pull out of the harbor. Was the day that Japan declared that surrendered. The war was over, so he never had to serve actual, active wartime kind of stuff.
Now, Mom had an uncle that was actually present when they bombed Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And he ended up with shell shock over it.
Anyhow, his name's Tom Ross.
And then
I don't know why I just call him him.
Got a great uncle, I believe it is, that was in World War I and II.
Yeah.
And then I was in the Utah Air National Guard.
Yeah. You were studying what to be a radio operator.
I was a radio operator.
And
they were getting ready to send me. It was during Desert Storm.
Yeah.
They were getting ready to send us to Iraq, and something happened at the last minute. I never did know what happened, but something stopped it right at the last minute, which at the time I wanted to go, but everybody that I knew that did go came back
said
sick.
No, yes, you don't want to go.
So I ended up going to Germany and Honduras, where they ended up sending me.
That was interesting though.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What kind of cars do you remember riding and driving?
My first car that I actually drove was a 1968 Chevy
Malibu. Had 307.
That car was cursed.
It was a cursed car. It was a beautiful car.
My dad bought that for me in 77. And off of some people, a girl that owned it before had wrecked it.
Well, he run Echo Junction, a little truck stop.
That was an awesome truck stop.
Little bitty old thing. I wonder if it's still around. Echo Junction. The reason they called it Echo Junction is it was a railroad junction. And it wasn't necessarily a truck stop, but it became a popular stop for truck drivers.
About the first year that, well, let's see, what was that Chevy that belonged to Mom and Dad that I drove before I started driving?
That was a 60...
That kind of brownish colored one, that was a Chevy.
66 or 67 Chevy Impala.
What was that car that Dad had that's in that picture of me when I was real little? Was that a Buick?
That's a Buick.
That was a 50-something?
Oh, a 58, I think.
Then he had that Travelall. It was old.
Yeah, International Travelall. That was a cool old truck, though. I wished he'd have got it fixed because it was cool.
But when my dad got me that car, for about the first 2 years that I drove, I had fender benders every time I drove.
Oh, it was a wreck magnet.
And every time I had a fender bender, Donald was with me.
Pretty much. Yeah, I don't know what he paid for that car. I don't think he paid a lot, like $900 or something.
Something like that.
But oh my God, he took it to this hot rod shop, and I think he spent, almost $3,000 on it.
It was not my idea. I was not a spoiled brat.
Because what he did, it was, oh my God, it was beautiful. I wish we've lost the pictures of it because we had pictures.
Two-tone blue.
Two-tone blue, but what was really beautiful is the base color was almost white, but it was just a slight blue, and then it had twin racing stripes that went down the middle, and they were a little darker blue. Oh my God, it was beautiful.
It was a
But
pretty
the reason
car.
it cost so much, he just didn't get enamel paint. He got the baked on enamel. Well, it ain't enamel. What I'm saying, he didn't get just the cheapy paint. He got, I mean, once they painted it, they had to bake it. They actually had to sit it in an oven for I don't know how long.
It was a pretty
Oh,
car.
God, was that a beautiful car. But,
I had such bad luck. Donald was with me one day, and I'm just tooling down our road, minding my own business, and a guy in a pickup truck with a camper on the back stopped right in the middle of the road.
yeah, stopped right in front of me.
Throwed it in reverse and backed right into me before I
Yeah.
had a chance to do anything.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that was. And then the dude that pulled out in front of you and sideswiped you on the way to school.
Yeah. And then, in 1979, when I got married, I gave Donald that car, and he had it no time, and he run it into a brick wall, come within 3 inches of hitting a phone pole. So I don't know. And after I got rid of that car, never did have no accidents. You get you some coffee?
Yeah, I had to get some coffee.
I was telling him how you ran that car into a brick wall.
Yeah, I run it through a cinder block wall.
I don't know what
And that
wrong
was the
with
end of that car. I shouldn't say it was the end of that car, because Ron, he drove it for a long time, and he sold it to some kid. And as far as I know, it's still running somewhere out there in Salt Lake. Anyhow. But yeah, she started her car driving in that car, and so did I. And we both ended up wrecking in it.
I never had no more problems with accidents. Other than
I
that,
haven't either.
other than that drunk driver that hit us. But
The
I
only
wasn't
other
even
accident I
driving.
ever had was that dude that run a red light in front of me.
Yeah, but that light was messed up.
Yeah, it was messed up. But anyhow. What were some of the interesting gadgets and inventions you remember?
The 8-track tape.
Yeah, we go back to the days of the 8-tracks.
Let's see. Interesting gadgets. Let me think.
One of the coolest gadgets, and you still have it, is that little doll that's got the hair that you can pull out.
Oh, Chrissy
That-
doll.
Chrissy.
I still got that
I was
somewhere.
going to call it Sally Grows a lot, because her hair, you can yank it out like it grows, and then it's got a little twisty knob on its back.
Yeah.
You can pull it back in anyhow.
Let's see. Hey, I thought it was big stuff when they came out with the push-button phones.
Oh, that was like, oh my
'Cause
God.
I
You
come
thought
back-
we was on
We had rotary phones
yeah,
when
you
I
thought
was
we was
little.
on the Starship Enterprise when the Bell Company delivered our new touch-tone phone.
And I'll tell you what I thought was big stuff. The young generation would understand this. I thought it was really cool when they came out with cassette tapes in your car.
Oh yeah.
Because before
was
that
big
it was
stuff.
8-track tapes. Them things were awful
Well, no,
to
back
store.
in the time, basically your standard car had the push-button AM radio. That's
That
all
was
you
it,
got, and
yeah.
had a one speaker in the dashboard.
And then if you wanted to have it, I don't know if it come equipped. You could get an 8-track player put in your car.
Oh yeah, well you could get an FM tuner too.
Yeah.
And see, my first car, that's the one thing that I got in it, it was a Pioneer. It was a cassette deck with an FM tuner. Not AM, FM, just FM. I mean, but it, this is back in the 80s. And I don't know, it's just kind of funny. I'm trying to think what year it was I got my driver's license.
1983. No,
No,
I'm sorry.
Lord have mercy,
1980. I'm sorry. It was 80 just before you all
80,
come back
81.
here.
80. Yeah, it was
in
80.
1980.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be right. Yeah, 1980. But,
I can remember the first computer that I ever worked on.
yeah.
Not worked on, but used. They actually had the floppy disks. You didn't boot them up like these computers now. It was
No.
complicated just to boot them up.
Oh, well, see, when I was going to school, my first experience with computers, junior high, we actually had computer class, but it was an IBM 10-key punch machine. You remember the punch cards?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, a lot of your utility bills you'd get in the mail would be a punch card. You remember it say on the front, "Do not fold, bend, or mutilate."
I can remember when they first came out with microwave ovens. I was so scared to get one, and I held off for a while because I was
Oh,
afraid
they're
I was
so-
going to get radioactive
Well, not
or
only that,
something.
they were so expensive.
Yeah.
I think it was probably what, 80. Let's see, 85 before we got our first microwave.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah. Same thing with VCRs. They were so expensive. I think it was.
That was a cool gadget. People don't think
I think it was
about
like
that.
88 before we got our first VCR because they were so outrageous. But by 88, they were competing. There were so many of them competing against each other that you could start. Actually, they were becoming affordable.
When you talk to a younger generation, they just take for granted all this technology. But we came up through that when they were first coming out. We
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
have VHS tapes when we were kids.
No, when we were kids, you didn't have videotape machines. Were something in a TV studio.
And before the DVD, there was laser vision.
Oh, I'm tell you right now, the
And
late
that
80s
was-
and the early 90s,
That was awful.
the technology was growing so fast that you had to be a millionaire to keep up with it. Because you had laser disc, you had video disc, you had
What was that one video disc? It was actually a vinyl record inside
yeah,
of that
RCA.
hard
Yeah, it was RCA. I think it was just called video disc, but it
now,
sucked. It
my
was so
husband
bad.
and I-
But a lot of people, the problem is they thought that was what Pioneer Laserdisc was, and they kept hearing how bad it was. So that's kind of why Pioneer. Not only that, but the first Pioneer Laserdisc machine, like the one that you
They
all
were
had.
cool. They looked like a big giant DVD.
Oh, they were huge and heavy.
And the
Because
machine itself.
Yeah, they had an actual gas laser inside of them.
Yeah,
I mean, they had an industrial laser.
they were a white machine, and you push this button, and the top would come
Yeah,
up.
the top would pop up.
And then you close it, but what would happen is they couldn't get the bugs out of it, so you'd be in the middle
Well,
of
there
the
was a
movie, and
circuit
it would
board
just
that would
freeze.
overheat,
Yeah.
and they kept having trouble. Oh, it was ridiculous.
And we
then
took it back about 3 times, and every single one of them did the same thing.
Well, they finally came out with one that had an integrated laser. Well, then the machine, they got extremely lighter, and they actually started working. But by then, Philips was coming up with what they
DVD.
call, well, first they called them video CDs.
Oh, is that what they called them?
But yeah, but see, then the DVD thing kind of took off. Of course, what was it, like maybe 2 years after the DVD thing started, then it was Blu-ray, and now
Oh,
we're
yeah.
getting, well, there was some other format. It's kind of went goofy, because now basically there's no DVD. I mean, you can get DVDs. I still like CDs and DVDs,
I
but
do
you don't
too.
really need them much anymore.
And then
Because like Hulu and all them,
yeah,
you want to watch a movie, you just watch a movie.
there for a while, for a couple of years, or maybe more than a couple of years, they came out with a video tape that was actually better than VHS. They were called beta tapes.
Well, our first one was a Betamax. Yeah, we were beta people.
They were smaller than the VHS tape,
Yeah.
and they had better quality.
The only drawback is they couldn't record as long as this VHS, but
Mm-hmm.
the quality, there's no comparison. Now, I know there's some YouTube channels that beg to differ. Oh, VHS and beta, you can't tell the difference. Well, you can't now, but back then you could.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're trying to play beta and VHS machines on modern equipment, you're not getting what we were getting back in the day. Because back when we were watching it on cathode ray tube televisions.
Mm-hmm.
So you were limited to, I'm trying to think of the resolution, 420 by something or another. It's been too long, I can't remember. Completely different, because now instead of lines of resolution, it's pixels, and you can't compare the two formats now on modern equipment. It just don't work. But
When you think about it, how was the question? What neat gadgets?
yeah, what kind of cool gadgets and stuff.
See, people don't think about this, but just the cell phones. When they first come out with cell phones,
Oh yeah.
that was cool. We'd never seen anything
Oh,
like
when we were kids, they didn't have cell phones, but what blew our minds was in some of these TV shows. I'll never forget watching, I think it was Cannon. You remember the detective show Cannon?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
He had a car phone.
Mm-hmm.
Only it wasn't a cell phone. It was basically this huge radio that was stored in the trunk of the car, and he had a telephone receiver in the front.
I remember that.
But see, now back then the way that worked is when you picked the phone up and you hit the button, you weren't calling anybody. What it was doing was it was connecting you to a mobile operator, and you had to tell them what number you needed to call. It was a completely different thing, and it was extremely expensive. Even rich people like, I ain't paying that kind of money.
The very first cell phone I actually remember seeing, I thought the guy was a phone man. Because he had this big, huge box, and he had this big thing that looked like an old-fashioned telephone. And come to find out, it was the original cell phones.
Well, see,
and he had a carrying strap.
Yeah. It was for the battery in the radio.
Yeah.
But seeing those, you could have mounted in your car, or like you say, you could carry them. And then Motorola come out with the brick phone, and that was about a $4,000 phone.
See, a lot of these...
And I think and the reason they call it a brick, I'll throw a picture of it. It was about the size and the weight of a brick. And I think you had about 10 hours standby time, and I think if you were lucky on a good day, you had 30 minutes talk time with the battery. But another problem, I guess he didn't think about it back then, is it was a full 3-watt radio transceiver, and you're holding it right up against your head. It's a wonder people's brains didn't cook.
I can remember one of the first cell phones I ever had. It wasn't even a flip phone. It was about that tall.
Yeah.
The signal was so bad that when I was talking, I had to put my nose against the front door of the house.
Lord have mercy.
And I had to stand there like that. If I went either way, I'd lose it. They've really come a long way since then.
My first phone was the Motorola, the classic flip phone. I'll put a picture of it. And another thing on those mobile phones back then is they had the little pull-up antenna.
Oh yeah, I had
one. But I'll tell you something. Analog cell phones, there wasn't hardly anywhere I could go I didn't have a good signal. Everywhere I went. The only problem was back in the day, you basically stepped out off the interstate. You were roaming.
Yeah.
You crossed the county line. You were roaming. Well, locally you could call anywhere and talk as long as you want. Didn't matter. But when you started roaming, that was like $5 or $6 a minute. And it's like, you better you better have tell her I'll be there. But yeah, you better, the phone call better be important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice it was getting that late.
But you know, I can remember in the late 70s, I think it was 1978, this guy come on the TV, and he was talking about this thing in the future, that our stylus needles on our vinyl records was going to be obsolete, and he's coming out with this new technology called laser vision.
Oh, yeah.
And it was going to make all the vinyl records obsolete. And I'm standing there, yeah, right, that'll be the day. And it wasn't that many years later that they were.
Well, now our kids, because you figure Anna and Victoria, she's almost getting ready to turn 25. Anna's what, 22, 23?
23.
They kind of, I mean, they know what CDs are, but as far as going out and buying them or anything, I know Victoria's got some DVDs, but these kids nowadays, they're growing up.
It's all digital.
Probably here in the next 5 or 10 years, they'll be scratching their head. CD? What are you talking about? DVD? What are you talking about?
I tell you, it's when I used to do all of the videos, I used to do all the video recording at my church, and I could go down to Big Lots,
Yeah.
because their DVDs were cheaper there. You know, they're getting harder to find.
Oh, they are.
They're
Well, that's another
phasing them
thing.
out.
I'll tell you what. Go to Walmart and look for a VHS tape.
They're hard.
Look for a VHS machine.
No,
look for a DVD machine.
There for a while, I had the VHS and the DVD where you could the recorder. You can't even find those now.
I'll tell you another thing. It's becoming a normal thing in new cars. is the lack of a CD player.
It's all, what is it,
They're doing away.
Bluetooth or
Well, that's
Wi-Fi
like
or
my car.
something, I
My
don't
car's
know.
got Bluetooth and all that stuff, and it's got a CD player. But
Sirius, what is it, Sirius XM?
Sirius XM.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the satellite radio.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what my car's got, and most of these newer cars is they've dumped the CD player, and like my car's got it, and I know all the newer cars have it, and it's the USB plugs.
Yeah.
And
That's
also
true.
another instead of the CD slot, they have a slot on the dashboard for an SD card.
Really?
Oh yeah. In fact,
No,
mine has a slot on the dashboard for a micro SD card. Now, what it's for? Probably the newer ones now are different, but what mine the SD card's for is to update the GPS.
Oh, really?
But these newer cars, it's put music, put all kinds of stuff. In fact, I can take one of these little thumb drives, and I can put music on it, and I can plug it into. I got 3, I think, USB plugs, inputs on my car. I can plug it into any one of them, and I can store music and video files, and I can watch video, and I can play music off that card or off that
Wow.
thumb drive.
That's pretty cool. You know, I use my stored songs on my iPhone.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have an iPhone now. I've got an Android, but I use the playlist off my
Yeah.
phone more than I do CDs.
Anyhow, let's move on.
Anyway, what we're getting at is this generation that we come from has seen a big
Well, all
turn
different
in
generations. Yeah,
technology.
let's just like the older, like Mom's generation. I mean, you get back those times. Not a lot of people had TVs.
No.
Nowadays, that's unheard of. I don't know of any house unless you live out in the middle of absolute nowhere that doesn't have some kind of little TV somewhere.
Most of them's got 2 and 3 anymore.
But and the future's going to be something I don't know.
In another
Lord have
10
mercy.
years, it's hard to say what.
It's hard to say. I swear. It's interesting though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. I'm not one of these. Oh, these kids today, technology's going to ruin us. No, I think it's cool. I can't wait to see what comes out next. But anyhow, next question is, what was your first job?
Working at the concession stand in a theater
Yeah, the little theater. I'll never
in
forget that
Kearns,
theater.
Utah.
Can't think of the guy's name, but he loved black. Everything he owned was black.
That was in 76 or 7, I don't remember, and I made 50 cents an hour.
Let me think. 76. But yeah, he drove a black pickup truck. I think he had a black car. And that one time, you remember, he had twin black snowmobiles.
Yeah.
And I went to work with you that one night for some reason. I think Mom and Dad was playing or something, and I just tagged along. Well, after they closed, you remember the kids that was running the projectors and stuff got the bright idea to hotwire them and take them out in the back lot and run them around. And me being the stupid little kid I was, I think it was cool. They give me a ride. I mean, it was awesome and everything. They got done with it and everything. They brought it back in thinking that he's never going to see it. Problem is, all that snow would have built up on it, and it's melting and it's dripping. I said, well, you don't think he's going to notice the big puddle of water surrounding his snowmobile? Oh, by the way, that back lot y'all just got done in, you don't think he's going to not notice the snowmobile trails all over the place? We didn't think about that. And I'm like, well, I think the owner, I don't think he got real mad because they didn't hurt anything. But he knew what was going on. I don't know if they got in trouble. Do you
Yeah,
remember
he's
that?
a pretty nice guy. I don't remember. It's been
Yeah,
some years ago.
he was okay.
But, 50 cents, I mean, even back then it wasn't much. It gave me a little spend of money. But, gasoline was only 50 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
in
Oh, and I
77.
remember, it wasn't your first job, but it was one of your most memorable jobs. Was it Judkins? The blinds, making the
Oh, Amjacks.
Amjacks. When I say Judkins, I think I'm the one that worked at Judkins. But that
Yeah, I
was
made
the
Venetian blinds.
that was the job you and Tina decided you all were adults and you moved out and got you an apartment.
Yeah, and that was a bad.
That was a horrible.
That was
oh
a
my
bad
God.
neighborhood. I mean, we heard a woman getting murdered down the street. We could
Yeah.
hear her screaming through our open windows, and scared us to
That
death.
was an experience. Oh, and then there was the candy factory you worked at.
Yeah, I worked at a
What was
made.
that place called? It's still in business. It's like world-renowned Utah candy or something.
I didn't think I'd ever
I
forget
can't
the name.
think of the name
They,
of it.
they made suckers and candy canes and
Yeah, they
toasted that coconut toasted marshmallows.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. I only worked there though during the Christmas season.
Yeah, the most disgusting thing was the guy that was working there got a bloody nose and bled into the
Yeah,
candy
and
vat.
all they did was scooped it off the top. And you know what? To this day, I can't eat a toasted marshmallow.
Oh, Lord, that's awful. But then you worked for, God, you've worked here and there and all over the place.
I worked at the World Motel, that very
World
first motel that
yeah,
we stayed at when we went to Salt Lake.
And Pony Express, you worked there for a while.
Now, that was my favorite job, Pony Express,
Yeah.
and being in the military, but I loved Pony Express because I had a 300-mile route, and I went from Salt Lake to Park City to Heber to Camas to Colville.
Yeah.
Each town from Salt Lake to Park City was 30 minutes, and then it was another 30 to Heber, and each town was about 30 minutes apart.
Yeah.
And then I'd get to Colville, and then I'd have to backtrack all the way back to Park City, and then back to Salt Lake, and then I had to go back to Camas and work my way back in the evenings picking up bank bags. I loved that job because I was out all day long.
Well, let's kind of close this up with religion. Tell us your story about, because me and you both have had kind of a colorful relationship with religion. Oh, thank you.
Well, in 1977, I started going to church. This little, well, it wasn't a little Baptist church. It was a big Baptist church in Akron while I was staying with my grandmother when my papa died. But then what happened is when I went back to Salt Lake, she was still living in Akron. She sold out and moved to Salt Lake with us. But what happened is because of all the stuff that was going on in school and stuff, I finally dropped out. I just couldn't take the pressure no more. So I got talked into going to this little Baptist school. And we got treated so bad there. That's another story.
Oh, Lord.
So I made this statement that I went home that day. I was so hurt. And I told my mom, I said, I'll never darken another church door what time I live. And that was in 78.
No.
So for years, I didn't go to church. And to tell you the truth, I just had a bad taste in my mouth. But the older I got, I realized that it wasn't God's fault that these people was acting the way they were acting.
Well.
So I forgot about the little stint where we went to the Catholic school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Lord.
I was there about a month. I told my mom, I said, if you don't take me out of here, I'm going to run away from home. But anyway, I did end up going back to school.
If you're going to go to Catholic school, you better be born and raised a Catholic because...
Yeah, and I've got a lot of Catholic friends,
yeah,
but it was just that it was different. But anyway, then I got married in 79, and for years I didn't go to church. Didn't want anything to do with it. But I met my husband, J.L. Carpenter, that passed away.
Well, your first husband was atheist, wasn't he?
He wasn't an atheist, but he didn't like church much.
Yeah.
And I've had some bad marriages. I'm not proud of it. But I met J.L. Carpenter when we came back to Kentucky in 1995 when my daughter was 5 months old.
Yeah.
And I met J.L. Well, he was raised in church, but he hadn't been to church in years either.
Yeah.
But we met through music. He was a guitar player, and then I was bass player, and we started playing music together. And actually played with my dad for a little while. But this was in 1998, in September when we started dating, and we got married in November. In the meantime, he had two sisters that were both dying of cancer at the same time. Sue died in March of 99, and OG died in October of 2000. And by that time, my life was a mess. Jail's life was a mess. We were going through a lot. He was devastated over his sisters and everything. And in the meantime, Anna had just started in kindergarten, and we'd enrolled her at this Christian school because, you know, I was worried about her going to public school because of all the school shootings that had started. So we'd actually put her in this little Christian school in Jeffersonville, Kentucky. It was called Lucky Stop Pentecostal Church of God, and they were running the school. So me and JL went. They were having a revival, and we went. And November the 8th, 2000, I gave my heart to God.
Yeah.
And JL, he got saved about a week after I did. And it wasn't long after that that it's like one thing led to another, and we started traveling with different evangelists as the musicians, and with our pastor at the time, who was Terry Lewis, and then Rick Fouts was our pastor for a while. And then in 2002, we met Hazel Ritchie, who's my pastor now.
Yeah.
And we met her through a revival that she had. And we started going to her church in June of 06, I believe it was. She actually started the church in 05, but we started going regular in 06. And I've been in church ever since, and I thank God that I did, because God changed my life for the better.
Yeah, it's awesome when you can find a church.
It is. It's hard to find a place. It really is, and that's, I guess, the problem that I had for years when I was young. You know, I guess part of me, I guess I was mad at God.
Yeah.
But then I had to realize it's not God's fault that people act the way they do. People's going to be people, you know, and you've got your good, the bad, and ugly.
Oh, yeah.
But since I've been in church and serving God, I've met some people that I would rather not cross paths with again. But you have to love them. Jesus said, love, you know, pray for your enemies. Love your enemies and pray for them. But then I lost JL 3.5 years ago. But God's been good to me. He's helped me through it and give me strength when I didn't think I had any.
Yeah.
And I've got my daughter, Anna.
Yeah.
She plays music with me now. JL started teaching her to play guitar about 8 or 9 years ago, and
She played really good.
She's a good little guitar player.
Well, last question would be, what from the past in your mind was better than the way it is now? And what advice would you give to today's youth? In other words, what do you think was better then than it is now? That we've
like
sort of lost touch with, and what would be your advice?
Families were closer.
Oh, extremely closer.
Families were closer. It was simpler. There wasn't as much. I mean, there was a lot of crime even then. I mean, you know, that's a given.
Well, see, crime, the way I look at it, a lot of people think that it's so bad right now, but I think it was always this bad, but with social media,
It's made it worse.
well, it's not that it's made it worse, it's made it more publicly noticeable, because you can let a fart in Australia and 15 seconds later the whole world knows you just let a fart. Where back in the day, local crimes were broadcast locally. So if you lived in Chicago, you knew it was bad in Chicago. But if you lived in Kansas, you didn't know it was that bad in Chicago. Well, nowadays you do because of social media.
I'll tell you one thing that was better. Although I think kids from the beginning of time had to put up with bullies.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as feeling safe, parents didn't fear sending their kids to school, and kids didn't fear being there.
No.
But with all these school shootings and everything, it's really caused a fear in kids, and kids shouldn't have to deal with those kind of issues at a young age.
Yeah, now that's the one thing I don't know if social media has desensitized kids or something. I don't know what's going on there.
I don't either.
I don't ever remember, even as a young adult, school shootings or anything like that.
What advice
Never.
would I give kids? Stay in school, for one thing.
And I do remember back in the day that nut job I don't think they were Amish, but he took that school over and said that he had a bomb and he set it off.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think it was in Wyoming or somewhere, but
Yeah, it was.
anyhow, I mean, it's not like it's never happened. It's just it's happening so frequently nowadays. Anyhow, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you.
Oh, that's okay, but I would be good to your parents. Listen to the older people when they give you advice because they've lived their life. You know, you can't put a 50-year-old head on a 8-year-old. You know, it's impossible to do, but absolutely.
But they do have common sense, and they're trying to keep you from making the same mistakes.
Yeah, it's just like I used to tell Anna, I just don't want you to make the same mistakes.
The kids have the attitude, oh, whatever, and they roll their eyes, and they have to go through it, I guess. But
now I ended up going back to school and getting my. Well, actually, I got a GED. Then I went back and got my diploma before I went in the military. I wouldn't advise anybody to have to. That was the hard way of doing it.
Yeah.
But back when I was a kid,
I know that's a broken record, but it really is true. Stay in school. Just finish your school out.
When I was 10, 12, 15 years old, there were more opportunities to get a job if you didn't have a diploma.
Oh no, yeah. Back in our day. If you quit school, you could get a job and you could get somewhere. You can't now.
Now, you can't hardly get nowhere with a high school diploma.
And the reason is because the good paying jobs nowadays are all technical.
They are.
As far as labor, because all of the labor is being slowly, well, I shouldn't say slowly nowadays. Back in our day, it was slowly being replaced, but it's extremely fast being replaced by robots.
And another thing I would tell kids, if you're having a struggle in school, I did.
Ask for help.
Ask for help. Yeah. There are people that will help you, and there's programs that they've got now that they didn't have then. But don't quit. Don't ever quit.
No. And I know a lot of people, they make fun of, stupid high school. Well, okay, yeah, and they teach you some, well, I'll never need to use that stuff, and I'll never... Yeah, but it's good to have a basic knowledge of things.
Yeah.
And that's all high school, school, from kindergarten to graduating high school, it's teaching you the basics. It's not teaching you everything you need to know. It's just teaching you enough of the basics of how to live a productive life.
Yeah. And enjoy your youth.
Yeah, but if you drop out, oh, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. And enjoy your youth and stay in school, because one day you're going to blink and it's going to be gone.
Yeah, that's
the
another
time's
thing.
going to pass anyway.
You know what? That's another thing. These young kids, quit trying to grow up so fast.
Yeah, it's the truth.
Enjoy yourself as a kid. There's nothing wrong with being a kid.
The day I turned 21, my dad told me, he said, hold on, because it's going to go by fast now, and it did.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing, is like these quote-unquote reality shows, like on MTV and stuff, these kids are watching it thinking, well, that's what I need to do, is I need to go find a gal, get her pregnant, get married, and settle down. Well, you can't settle down, first of all, because you don't have a trade. You don't have any way of making a living.
That's another thing. Take relationships slow. Don't just go out and get yourself... It takes a second to get into a mess and a lifetime to get out of it.
Yeah, it does.
And once you get yourself pregnant, the guy, it'll ruin his life. He'll probably have to pay child support from now on. It's not necessarily
going to ruin their life unless they choose to allow it to ruin their life.
It makes it harder.
But what it does, like if they choose to walk away, it's going to make you as a mother and your child extremely difficult, your life. And then he's going to run around, and then social services is going to be chasing him down for child support.
Yeah, just
for the next 18 years.
I know it seems like an eternity when you're young.
Yeah, I know.
But just wait. Don't just jump into a relationship, and mess yourself up. Stay in school and do the right thing.
Yeah.
It'll make your life a lot easier. Because, when you have that baby, you love that baby. But it does make things a lot more difficult.
Oh, yeah. Anyhow,
didn't mean to get off on a...
Nah. That's one thing about my sister. She gets to talk, and she can talk.
Anna told me I talk too much.
Anyhow, This is going to be part 2. So that's okay. It's been interesting, and I'll put a link to your channel down. She's got her own YouTube channel, so she's doing her thing over there.
Yeah, I got to get back active on that. I haven't been on there much for a week because of these migraines I've been getting.
Yeah, Lord, that's another thing. Getting older, we all just kind of start falling apart. Me, literally. That baling wire holding me together, it's busting. It's come loose and it's floating around. Lord have mercy. Anyhow, we're going to get off of here, and if you've made it this far, appreciate it.
Sorry.
If you haven't, I understand. And so anyhow, I guess we'll say good. God bless, and everybody take care. Oh, lots of people needing prayer. My mind's completely drawing a blank. There's so many different people that I run across on YouTube that are needing some prayers. So we'll definitely work. I'm gonna keep everybody that I can in prayer.
If we don't know their names, God does.
Yeah, and I pray for them at the time when I see what's going on and they're asking for prayer. But my poor old brain, I can't remember from one minute to the next. You know, that names is something that is real hard for me. I remember a face. I can see somebody
too.
once, and I'll remember your face, but your name. And plus, there's a couple of people that want silent prayer. I'm not going to mention their names. They're going through some real bad stuff. So, relationship-wise, so definitely saying prayers to everything works out for them. And like I said, as always, God bless. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next Monday. I'll see if I can hunt somebody down to interview. If not, I don't know, I might hunt Carla down. Maybe I'll interview Carla. Huh?
We'll work on it.
Yeah.
We can find somebody somewhere.
We'll go over hound Joe again. We'll go interview Joe again. He'll be like, I thought you guys already interviewed me. Well, we did. We're back. So anyhow, God bless everybody. Take care, and we'll see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye.